In this video, we're showing the MST RMX some love with the aluminum steering mount, the steering joint plate, and the steering arms. Kind of a group of upgrades that all go together. They all kind of are in the same area. If you're digging into the car and digging deep enough to put one of these on, you kind of might as well be putting all of them on. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we're going to install and show you how to install all of these parts and the potential kind of benefits of why you may want them. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is RoadsideRC. You'll tend to find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. Let's get started by getting these items out of the box and kind of looking at what's included. First up is the steering mount itself, 210588 MST part number there. It of course has instructions, but then it's just this aluminum bridge mount that you get that helps mount all the other steering components. It's going to reduce some of the flex and give us a little bit more strength in that area. Then we have the steering joint itself. Again, instruction manual for it, which is really nice. And then it is the panel that goes side to side, and it gives you a whole lot more options here for where you can mount the steering turnbuckle. Now, the problem with that on this car is that this is actually a fixed link. This is a ready-to-run car, and I've never upgraded it to adjustable turnbuckles, which means we're really only going to be able to put it back into the factory location. And lastly, the steering arms themselves, again, instruction manual, and then it comes with the 3 arms. The one carbon fiber piece here you hook up in order to kind of bias the steering wiper assembly, and then the 2 arms for the wipers themselves, coming with the bearings and everything. Very nice. Because we're going to be tearing into all the steering components down in underneath here, I'm actually going to take more off than I think was really 100% necessary, but that's just going to be to help me show it to you. So I'm going to take the 2 screws out of here. I'm going to take the 2 screws out of the front bulkhead. I'm going to pop the top of the shocks off. I'm going to take these 2 screws off, and then with that plus a couple screws back here, I can probably get rid of this whole top panel so that we can easily see what we're kind of getting at with the steering linkage. This screw and this screw are already out, and then in order to get the front bulkhead, you're looking at these 2 up here at the front, along with these screws right here, which are for that arm mount. Here's our little ball tool here, and pop off the shocks on the front. Now at this point, you can tell that the whole thing is loose. I have the carbon fiber brace on my chassis, which means I have nuts back here. I believe with the plastic factory chassis, you would not. Okay. I'm going to then take my 2.5mm, and I'm going to take the upper links loose. We still have the servo linkage itself. And then I'm going to be taking the steering turnbuckles off, noting the orientation that we were in the outermost hole. Just noting, I think we could have done it a little bit easier. I think there's a few less screws that you could possibly take off, but I wanted to take off and get the thing wholly out of the car in front of us so that we could really lay the parts side by side and show you easier what we were doing. I have it all flipped. It's actually upside down here. So it was like this, front of the car, flipped upside down. This whole area here is basically what we're going to be replacing. So I'm going to go ahead and take off 1-2 screws here. The whole thing all the way up. Very good, there we are. So the rest of this bulkhead can lay down over here now, and if I put the screw back in it just to hold it together, that is what we're looking to replicate. I want to start with this part of the whole wiper system, because this is going to be really important to make sure that we get right and that we line up and match the factory parts. So if you're familiar with your MST manual, you'll know that you can actually mount these this way as well. We're going to be just rebuilding this exactly as it comes from the factory, but this is a good example of how you can tell where the benefit is from this. You can see the extra screw holes here, the extra mounting options that you have, and of course, if your car's getting a little bit older, these bearings will start to die, but then also the plastic will start to just have more wobble in it, and that's usually when I see people replacing these parts. When I had my previous MST car, that's when I replaced them, is some of this plastic was just starting to wallow out. And that's some of the benefits that you'll see. But yeah, this one right there, that's pretty obvious, the difference that you're getting here. Now, if I line everything up, right here, before we take it apart, we're going to notice, remember I have the non-adjustable turnbuckles, so that means I need the outside center hole in order to maintain my alignment. Very important. The kit comes with brand new bearings, which is awesome. You're going to put 2 in each side, one from the top and one from the bottom. As you're assembling the bearings in here, this little washer is very important to make sure that you put that between the 2 bearings. That's going to help that arm later so that it doesn't bind up. Giving it a quick second look, I made an uh-oh here. Notice how these arms are offset. If I compare them with my factory one, you can actually install it. And it says in the instructions, you can actually install it this way or this way, and it'll help. It's one tuning tool that you have for adjusting your alignment. So you can actually install this 4 different ways. It's kind of crazy. I want to, again, I'm mimicking my factory alignment for now, and so I'm going to install it this way. The kit does provide you with brand new ball studs. Feel free to use those if you think your factory ones have gotten some wear on them. I've confirmed that my other factory ones, these are that would go in here on this outside. I believe mine are in good shape, so I'm going to save these for a later day. We're now skipping over to the aluminum steering arms themselves, and again, matching them up. The cool thing here is there's 2 hole options from the factory. Now when you line this up, it looks like you have 4 options that you can choose from. Again, no adjustable turnbuckles on my car at the moment, so what I'm going to be doing is swapping over everything factory, which means those screws that we had there earlier, I'm going to be putting them into the outside most hole. Pay attention still to your orientation. It does matter as you're putting it together. We again have 4 bearings going in the top and the bottom of each one of these arms. And although I do not see it say it discreetly in the instructions, I will say Loctite here is basically mandatory. Metal screw into a metal piece there, you want to Loctite that. If you need some, I'll have a link down in the video description. This is a good opportunity to stop and double check old parts versus new parts, orientation, layout, all that still looking the same. As we look to assemble this carbon fiber arm onto the link here, you have literally like a million choices here. It's like infinite choices. You have holes all around this, and you have 3 mounting holes in the arm itself. I think you could put this at any angle, any degree you want. Again, my goal is I'm going to come down here and I am going to try to match it up. I'm going to try to line up that, line up the center, and say that I want this in that same orientation. Alright, and I am not going to lie to you, that took me like 3 tries to get that to line up to be the same angle. And then according to the instructions, you can put this ball stud in here, because you can't screw into the carbon fiber. So there's this nice ball stud, and basically you're putting it into the second hole in the whole system. Now this extra length here does pose another problem that they call out for you in the instructions, which is this edge over here. I don't know if you can really see that. Let me see if I can get it in the light here. This part of the bulkhead over here on the right hand side, this rib that it has here, turns out that's going to be in the way. So you can take an angle grinder, you can take a knife, something like that. You can cut the top kind of half of that rib off so that this longer steering arm doesn't happen to connect with it. Then lastly, it's on to our final hole mount for the thing. And again, this is basically just a rinse cycle repeat of the factory parts. It has these nice aluminum standoffs, and it comes with new hardware. So the long screws can go through. You can put your standoffs on there. It can fall back off. And then this all goes towards the front, which means it would go in like this. And you would end up 1, 2, and this whole mechanism now moves freely. Very good for you to make sure that it moves freely. Bearings aren't binding, nothing's binding up. You didn't get anything accidentally upside down. Grand opportunity for that. And 2 new screws for mounting this to the chassis. The whole mechanism we can just lay right back in here and line up with those factory screws. With that tight, again, make sure that it moves freely. No issues, no binding, no nothing like that. I like that. Nice and free movement. have it all just laid back in here right now, popped the steering ball link on, and now we can see, of course, with the servo moving, the steering moving. I'm going to go ahead and start getting a couple of these other screws back in and start locking this whole thing back down. As we get ready to hook these steering turnbuckles back up, remember, outside middle hole, that is where we're going in order to maintain our factory alignment. Again, I'm putting Loctite, especially because this is a turning ball joint. I'm putting Loctite on this thread as I assemble it. And there we go. So all back installed. Look at that. Steering angle and everything still looking great as it was, you know, but now we have more options. And if you then start to do the adjustable turnbuckle ends and things along those lines on this car, this steering is now going to have much more adjustability in it for you. Also, I think the biggest deal, and like I said, when I did this before on my previous MST, one of the biggest advantages that I got out of it was the fact that my factory plastics had just started to wear down and started to provide more slop in the steering. This was able to get rid of a lot of that, and that helped out. The only other reason I think that you'd really want it, it's hidden down in there a little bit right now, especially because I got the black. They also do offer this in a red. So if you were doing kind of a red theme on your car and you wanted that fancy bling from that, then that would be another option, another reason why you may want that. The tools for this job, really pretty simple. Some scissors to open up the packages, a knife in order to, you know, shave down some plastic parts. I used a little pop tool here, but you can also just use like a flat blade screwdriver in order to pop off the ball ends of the shocks. 2.5 millimeter, 2 millimeter, and 1.5 millimeter MIP tools with either just, you know, the standard, you know, I have a quick end here, or I love this Hodo electric screwdriver, so I can leave you a link for it down below, and of course a pair of needle nose pliers, along with some level of thread locker for all the aluminum screw, or for all the metal screws going into metal parts. I hope this video was useful for you. If you have any questions about what I did or how I did it, please leave them down in the comments section below. If you have any other curiosities about this MST specifically and some things I've done to it, or just general drift technology stuff, there'll be a playlist popping up over here to your right where all that'll be included. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.